Hello everyone, I'm Charles Morse. Welcome to new show. Well, it's new, but it's not new. But it's new, but it was around and it went away, but now it's back. Anyway, I'm Charles Morse. Welcome to Youth Central Sports. And along the way is the man. I call him the man. He's Mr. Vince Carter. How you doing, Mr. Carter?
Real good, Charles. Glad to be back in this forum talking about those things which we find important. Glad to have them join us.
See, notice he said things we find important. See, that's where we kind of go back and forth because we're talking about youth and sports in general. And in our culture, somehow or another, over the time when I guess Caesar and Moses came along and you know the ark.
First Olympiad.
Well, I'm just saying the ark was built and so on and so forth. Somehow or another, sports have become a place in our lives where it seems to be bigger than God. It's money, 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 money. I think it's $1 trillion industry when you combine it all together. Worldwide, it's $1 trillion and more. But Youth Central Sports, I'm Charles Morris. I have a nonprofit which is called Youth Central Connection. Been working with kids for a very long time. Don't have my own kids, but Vince, you know, I think I know, but I'm going. How many kids do you have?
Oh, well, I actually have 8.
What, really?
Yeah, eight kids. It's 3 by marriage.
Okay.
3 biological kids, one adopted, and others by marriage. And it's quite an experience. They are all, it's 8 different people, and you put them all together, and it's absolutely hilarious. To hear their comments on one topic. And I haven't had the chance really to have them all together. I think maybe twice. And it was absolutely hilarious to me. I just listened to them. You ask one question and just let it take off. And you'd be amazed what comes back to you. So when they're spread out all over the place, and which I think is good because it helps them become young men and young women. But and then it's nice to have somewhere to go sometime, and it's nice to be able to reach out to them. But yeah, they're all doing well.
Okay.
And we reversed our roles. They're not borrowing money from me. I'm borrowing money from them.
you know. I guess that could be a wonderful thing at this point in time.
And I'm not paying it back.
Right. Well, that's normally how it is. On the other end, anyway, right?
They don't pay it back either, so I'm getting my money back.
Yeah, which is another show because that old saying, you know, you don't lend money to friends or family because it's just not coming back.
It's not coming back.
You know, it's just not coming back.
It's not gonna come back.
Yeah, but Youth Central Sports. I have a passion for sports. I grew up in a sports-dominated family in the sense of my mother. Like one example, I was in Sarasota this past weekend for an annual event that I do with a friend there. So I stayed at a friend's house, and she said, direct TV, I've been having some problems. I paid the bill, but it's not on. Can you help me? So to make a long story short, evidently AT&T is now taking over and they're making some changes, and they had totally kicked her out of the system. Totally kicked her out. So,
interesting.
Right. So now she had paid the bill. To make a long story short, after she had been on the phone for an hour, and it said that she owed them $19 is why supposedly they turned it off. But after she spent an hour on the phone, come to find out they owed her $70. And they finally turned the system back on. So I'm going through, and the reason why I'm telling the story, because I'm going through, there's no ESPN. There's no ESPN2. And I'm like, are you ever going to find you a man? And so I say that to say it's so weird as I talk about sports, but it's weird to walk in to somebody's house on a Sunday and there's no football on.
Any sport.
It's weird because you grew up and there was always something on. And my mother was she was such a Yankee fan. She was a Knick fan. 76er fan, and she loved those Dallas Cowboys, which I know is one of your favorite
I
teams.
share that passion with her. I share that passion with her.
You know, so I say that to say that sports has been such a major part of my life, and to sit here and talk sports with you because you're on a level in which you understand what it takes, because a lot of us don't.
Right.
A lot of us don't. Like, the first show we're letting you fill us out in the sense of who we are. But I'll share a story with you. When my nieces, they're a couple of years out of high school. And you actually met my nieces back when they were playing ball. I think it was in like 10th grade or so. But the time, I think they were going to the 11th grade, and you was working with some kids on a Sunday. And I said to my brother, I said, well, Vince is getting together on a Sunday. You know, we can take the girls over there and, work with them. And my brother said to me, man, I'm going to miss my football. And I looked at him, and I didn't know what to say to him.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know what to say to him, because after that, I'm thrown off. Because, and I say that to understand the time and how you can help them and what it means.
Right.
Now, when I coached, we went over the thing about when I coach girls and da-da-da. But my purpose in doing what I'm doing is try to help them get to the next level.
Right.
You can go and travel the world. You can get a free education. And I'm not even thinking in the sense of you being a star, but I'm thinking in the terms of being good enough to understand what you need to do to get to this level.
Right.
Because when I coached, I never said anything about winning. That was it. That was not my purpose.
Right.
My purpose and what I want to see is I want to see your effort. Because if you give me your effort,
winning or losing,
those things will take care of themselves.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because what's the good of you winning if you're not developing?
Right.
What's the good of winning if at the end of the season you know better than what you were before the start of the season?
And you didn't improve your IQ.
Right.
So you really haven't gone anywhere. Yeah, you won, but one of the things I've experienced with a guy that used to coach me and I used to coach with, he was always asked, obviously you ask, why didn't we win?
Right.
That's normally a question if you don't win. But his thing was to ask, why did we win?
Right.
Because everybody's all jubilant, excited about the win, but he came back to the part that, okay, now let's understand why we won. What did we do to make us win, as opposed to why we didn't lose?
Okay.
And so that challenged the kids in a different sense. At first they couldn't understand, Coach, what difference does it make? But he kept after it till it became a standard, it became a culture. That the first thing that when he would walk in, they'd raise their hand, Coach, can I tell you why we won?
Right.
Because they started understanding it.
Right.
And that's the difference between being a fan, or being a sports enthusiast, and being involved, and being a coach, I think, or being someone who's really involved in your sport.
Right.
As a coach, as a teacher, as opposed to just being a fan.
Right.
I think there's a difference.
Right. Well, see, I mean, because there's so many scenarios around it, and what I mean, because I would love to have a panel, because there's always that discussion. Like, for an example, Charles Barkley is always messing with Shaq because he says Shaq is so thin-skinned, but Shaq is always throwing his rings up, at Charles. And then Charles always make the point where you wrote the shirt tail of Kobe and blah, 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 then Wayne Wade, da, da, da. And I don't look at the measurements of the rings, because I understand you can't do anything by yourself. It's going to always be the chemistry, the team itself, and how that came together.
Right.
And a little blessing always come along the way,
Always,
because
always.
if you look at anything like for an example, March Madness, There's always a little something magical that happens along the way.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit of this, and just it took a little bit of that,
Right.
and that was the difference in that ball game when it came down to the last second here and there. And, just like in that Super Bowl where the Patriots came back and won, and when he made that
Seattle,
catch, that
Seattle
catch,
had to beat.
right,
Had one.
right. But what I'm saying is, it's those little things, and you go like, oh boy, you know, the stars are lining up for this right here, for, you know.
Well, there's
and it's those little things that a lot of times people don't pay attention to.
that make the difference.
Right.
But to your point, here's a scenario that's being discussed now. Tracy McGrady made a statement recently about the significance of being elected into the Hall of Fame compared to winning a Super Bowl or winning the winning an NBA championship. Some took it that he was not giving the credit to winning the championship and then favoring the Hall of Fame, because there's some guys that go their entire careers and never win a championship.
I mean,
and there are guys who won championship will not make the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I don't know that one's better than the other. I think there's great accomplishments on both sides.
Right.
And because in Tracy's case, he couldn't speak to winning a championship because he never did.
Right.
But he will go into the Hall. And so I think to your point about how we look at sports and we measure success in sports different ways.
Right.
I guess it depends on who you're talking to. I just like the idea of trying to compare me and you when I'm 40 years behind you, and all of a sudden we're gonna come. You can't do that. There's no comparison.
But Vince, to me, there is a comparison, and let me tell you what I mean by that. I think we're at fault from the standpoint that, let me see the best way that I can say this. Once you reach a certain skill level and ability to play this game, there's too many scenarios of my individuality and the next person's individuality. I think where we come at fault is when we try to say who is the greatest versus who was great.
Well, there's some degree to that. I agree with you on that.
And see, what I'm saying is there are so many great players that brought something to the game. And not one person that we will mention that was great is going to ever do anything by themselves, in the sense of winning.
Well, but see,
and it's going to be a collective chemistry of what fits to make it happen.
But that's not the conversation. See, I think your point is well taken, but that's not the conversation they want to have. That's what upsets me.
Right. That's
when you take a ball player, for instance. A lot of time people talk about what Jordan is probably not the greatest example, but let's look at that. Jordan won at the highest level multiple times and did. But Jordan, you remember Jordan shooting 30, 40 points a game, and they weren't winning.
Right.
He go 20 points a game. 25 points, and then he still had those 30, 40-point games. But when he's averaging around 20, 25 points, they will win because he had all that help around him. Now, the conversation of who's better today or not, the reason I said you can't do that, game has changed.
Well, that's a whole,
The rules have changed. Like they were talking to they had this thing called Full Court on NBA TV. They had all these, all the old players, Dumas, Isaiah Thomas, you had all those guys, and they were talking about like the rules. It used to be going through the lane was truly inexperienced. The Rick Mahorns, and you come through the first, and those guys felt like we got to let you understand, you can score anywhere you want to, but you can't come down here.
Right.
Well, now rules number one have changed how that happens, so it's not a focus on that. You're gonna take a hard foul. That was just understood.
Right.
Every player, today that's a foul. Where back in then, hand check and all, so it's different. So that's what I'm saying. You start talking about comparison. Now, if you want to say, so you take a group of players here and put them in a group, I don't know that you can compare them because number of games played are different. 3-point games, in some cases, some of the teams that compare was not there. I think you go back and say, to your earlier point, they were great at their time, and these guys are great at their time.
But I don't.
Then you look at win-loss, but you can't even do win-loss because they play less games.
But I don't know what we're watching now.
Well,
but see that's another story
that's
too.
a different game,
right?
yeah.
Right. No, I mean that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
Because this game that we're watching now, I have no idea what that is.
Well, the game is evolved.
But see, it's going backwards.
Well,
it's going backwards.
The focus of the game is entertainment now.
Exactly.
It's not for the essence of the game.
Right. That's my point.
It is entertainment.
I'm saying I even ask you this question. The game that you see in the NBA, if you go anywhere else and play it, are you gonna play that game?
You can't play it.
No, because nobody else plays that game in those rules.
Well, look at now we're adopting in the NBA some of the European rules and vice versa.
But I'm talking about
But see, what I'm saying is adopting those rules create the style of ball that you play. Case in point, it's such a drastic difference from college ball to pro ball.
What? No.
The reason I'm saying that is because of the focus of the game and also the way the game is being played. Because the NBA is just a freestyle. A guy somebody made a statement, and I'm sure you heard this a couple of times. If you get traded from your team today, how is it you can start on another team in 2 days from now? And their answer was because they don't run anything. It's just throwing the ball, and you put the ball in the hole. It's man-to-man defense. So if you know how to defend, there's no situation, which in some cases, in all fairness to the game, is not true. Okay, that's not true because I think one of the things that changes that is based on the skill set of the team that you're playing. You know, if they got big guys, whether they're true post players or not, you got to defend those guys. And those guys, if they don't step out and shoot, you got to defend them in the post. If they step out and shoot, it changes the whole game. But in essence of what they're saying, that is true.
Again, it's hard for me to watch.
It's difficult. More people want watching college ball because it's a pure game.
Right.
More people are going, and I'm gonna sit here and tell you, I was never a WNBA fan or college girls basketball.
Oh, really?
Didn't really care for it. Didn't care for high school ball. I am now, and the reason, the purity of the game.
Right. I love back when the WNBA came out, when Cynthia Cooper was playing.
I like Cynthia Cooper, but I didn't like the game.
Right. I mean, in the playoffs, when back when I don't watch that much now because pro sports kind of frustrate me so much now. But back then, man, I saw some of the best basketball I had ever seen in my life.
But Charles, if you look at it now,
right.
Going back, you can remember the young ladies were shooting. They were shooting threes. It was a part of the game, you know, especially depending on what high school they came from. But now they're dunk. They're dunking the ball just like. So when you look at this game, and it's developing very similar to the men's side. It's becoming as fancy. It's becoming, because one of the things about the girls' game that I like, it was kind of fundamental. They had twists to it and flair, but it was real fundamental.
Right.
But now that flair is coming.
Oh yeah.
Because and I think, to fairness to everyone involved in it, you got to compete. You know, if you got a big person that steps out and shoot, you got to get you one, or you got to find some way to stop that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so now it forces you. Yeah, I don't. According to some of these coaches, they don't want to do this, but they got to do it to stay alive.
But I give you an example of what I mean, Vince. Whenever they talk about the Golden State Warriors now, all right. So let's just say they want to say, okay, what if they had gone up against Showtime? And I'm just picking them.
Yeah.
No. I'm just using it as an example. They always make it seem like Showtime would have to adjust to the Warriors versus the Warriors having to adjust to Showtime.
Yeah, they would have to make that.
No.
That's a different animal.
But what I'm saying is, they make it seem like the Warriors don't have to do nothing.
No, they do.
Like Kareem, because Kareem will score 50, against them.
They don't have anybody. Who's gonna stop him?
Right. They don't have anybody that can do anything with him.
They don't have anybody gonna stop him.
Right. But so what I'm saying is, they make it seem like all the adjustment is for the other team. Like, all Golden State has to do is just walk on the floor, and then they do what they do, and they good.
Well, that's the talking heads talking out for.
And I'm listening to them, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, you can go back to the Jordan era, and when Jordan and those guys were winning back to back, when Phil was in Philadelphia, when he was in Chicago, and he go to LA. What they were putting on the floor, whoever you played, you had to make that adjustment.
Right.
Because they had an inside-out game.
Right.
You got to adjust to that.
Right.
How many teams do that today? Not too many.
Right.
Not too many do that anymore. So and that's to me where I look at. Well, let's just talk about the game of basketball on the other side. I think I understand better now, and in coaching this thing, understand the preparation for this, the adjustments you have to make. Not from game to game, from quarter to quarter, half to half. Because as lineups change, you either adjust to that lineup or you don't. Whichever you got to make a decision, and if you don't have what you have to match that, you got to find some strategy to do that. So when I hear people talking about that, I kind of get a little frustrated too from the other side. You don't understand what you're really looking at. You think you're looking at it from an entertainment value. I'm looking at it from a coach's standpoint.
Right.
He's doing. He might not be doing the most popular thing, but he's doing what it takes to win this basketball game.
Right.
And that's where I think the confusion comes. And then the comparison thing, Charles. That's just fans being fans.
Right. Oh yeah, I get that part.
No, but I'm saying
right.
I get some of my friends, they come up and I say, no, we cannot have that discussion. we just cannot have that because I don't think it's fair. You got to say these guys during their time, whatever team you picking, and they were winners, and they proved that. But this is a different time now.
But see, that doesn't make it better though.
I know that never
Right,
said no.
right.
See, that's not a discussion.
Right. But see, like for an example, Vince, I tell you, it's hard to watch sometimes. I mean, coming up, like for an example, we had this discussion, a couple of years ago. Coming up, whenever you elevated, you was taking your life in your hands, man.
Well, referees stop that now. The game stops that.
No. I'm talking about in the park.
Well, even in the park now,
Right,
they
right.
calling touch foul.
Well, no. Well, what I'm saying is,
it was a harder game.
No, right. But what I'm saying is, when you went up, you. What I see now when guys that laying open and they just go and they go to Hole and I think it's been the last 15, 16 years now that they just whatever that is, that whatever that angle is, whatever opens up and it comes and they go up to dunk, and it's just like a free open lane. I don't know where that came from, but I'm telling you, man, when you elevated. When you were taking your life in your hands, you just didn't go up because it was like, you gon', hey man, you got a big knot on your head, man. You just fell on this concrete out here. What? Ain't nobody stepping out of your way.
You don't see, and I think what happens in that, if you translate that to the organized side of the game, take it out the park, put it into schools, high school, college, even the NBA. Rules have changed that. Now we've gone to the value because like the entertainment value. So I can't afford to have you just like resting your star players. That's not what I paid to see. I paid a $27 ticket or a $47 ticket, whatever it might be. I paid, and then you resting him because you need him down the road. It's the same. So the rules have come in to change, supposedly protect, but they changed the face of the game. For those who are purists, which sounds like you are and I am, the game is not. I mean, I'm not looking for anybody to be hurt. I think from my standpoint, though, as a coach, here's what the other part of front. I think what's frustrating me, based on what you're saying, what's frustrating me is the mechanic of what they're doing is so wrong.
Right.
And that's what gets me frustrated. Everybody's cheering that, but that was a terrible. Who's going to do that? Right. And that's what you have in the NBA. To your point, there's no place else you can play that kind of game. Those guys got unique talents. Mm-hmm. They really are. They got bad habits, but they do it better than anybody else you know.
Right.
Now the NBA, there's a lot of carrying. I was talking to some officials last night.
They
pick that ball up and just walk with it.
Right.
Now, but you know why they don't call it? Entertainment value.
I mean,
do that in college or high school. It's a call.
But like for an example, Allen Iverson carried more than anybody. I mean,
as much as anybody.
Right. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, if I could carry the ball, like I could do amazing things, man. I could do all kind of things if I can carry the ball. And I'm like, and even when I was, and I told you the story before, I was trying to teach one of my players, you carrying the ball. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And for just about the entire season, I was telling her she was carrying the ball.
Carry the ball.
It was like 2 games before the end of the season, like halftime, I was telling you carrying the ball. No, I'm not. I said, Mr. Official. I finally, I had the official. I said, is she carrying the ball? He said, yeah. And I looked at him like, why aren't you calling it then? And so now she's looking at me like, oh, I guess I must be, because you were carrying the ball. Finally, the official told her, now she's going to believe the official versus her believing me.
Let me ask you now, you coach, what's a Euro step?
What that
4 steps is what it is.
Right,
It's
right.
a 3-step
Right.
that does not exist
Right.
in the rules of the game of basketball.
Right.
It's a 2-step hop.
right.
Euro step is no such thing as a Euro, but you've allowed it to take place to fit their game. Now we got it over here. I saw a guy the other night the other night in the game. There's no question he took 4 steps. The official stood there and looked at him. He took not 3 steps, 4 steps. Scored the basket, got fouled, and they called a foul. I'm saying, you got to be kidding me. See, that's where I think the game is deteriorating because of the entertainment value that is interesting. You want to keep the viewing public coming, people coming, the excitement. I'm all for that. I love seeing a good pick and roll. I love seeing a baseline dunk, a 3-pointer. But let's play the game by the rules or change the rules. Don't make exceptions. And you know for a fact they make exceptions.
Right.
You know, certain people can carry and it's fine, other people can't carry. Certain people walk, it's okay. and I'm saying, I don't care if you're paying $40 million a year. That's your decision. But the game should be played by the rules that are established.
Exactly.
So now, see, from my standpoint, we affect now that collegiate athlete because he's seeing this, and to include behavior on and off the court. What you allow them to get away with. That's a whole different conversation. But I'm talking about a trickle down effect that's seeing it done at that level. Then it's done at the collegiate level. Now you get these kids at high school. Now you got these kids playing AAU doing the same thing, thinking it's the norm. Mm-hmm. You've allowed that. Where do you allow in the NBA? They have players talking to officials long out. They just stop play to have a conversation. Do that in college, you get attacked.
Right.
Do that in high school, you get attacked. AAU, you're going to get attacked eventually. I guarantee you're going to get. It's not a part of the game. Why don't we call the game entertainment value? We want to see Charles, who's the leading jersey seller, top scorer. We want to keep him on the floor. So his 5th foul we won't call, or his 6th foul. So we keep him on the floor. But we'll take this guy over here, low in turn. We'll foul him out. Mm-hmm. That's not, and I think that's what, from a coaching standpoint, that frustrates me.
Right.
Because how do you teach the game when you got these variables that you can't teach?
Well, see, I think part of what it exposes is just more about dysfunction as a society.
Well,
seriously, but I'm serious because, like for example. And I would love to have this as a roundtable discussion among you and others who are coaches. How I was taught to play the game, and back when I played, you could press the entire game because we played this team in Jacksonville called Ocean Way in 8th grade, and we beat them 113-12, and we pressed the entire game, the entire game. And there's no way that can happen now.
No.
Okay.
No.
So, but my point is, this is what I'm saying. My first coach emphasized this, was that you play until the whistle blows.
Yep.
Okay. So the way we are now is there's nothing truthful about that in the sense of, well, you up by 25 while you pressing. Well, and I'll flip it to something to say like this right here. Cancer not gonna let up on you. Life not gonna let up on you.
Well,
people don't, and so, but this is the other part, Vince. Now the 3rd string is in. Could be the 4th string. I don't know. Could be the 5th string. Why can't the 3rd string play just as hard as the 1st string?
And they should.
And do what they're supposed to do,
They
just
should.
like the 1st string. So now you're telling the 3rd string that they shouldn't play the way they should play. That all of a sudden now, because you down by 30, 40, that they shouldn't play the way they should play. So what are you really teaching in the sense of life and what this game is about? Because whether you lose, because I don't care. If I lose by 40, you still pressing me, I don't look at you. I'm not going to, well, man, you know, you need to call off the dogs.
Yeah, but you know that's not what you hear today.
Right, but I'm saying if you call off the dogs, I'm looking at you like, man, you know, why you calling off the dogs? Well, I want you to keep those, because tomorrow at practice, I got something I can talk about.
Well, I had a coach, this has happened to me twice in my coaching career so far. Once as an assistant, once as a head coach, up by a lot. Really pounding them, just both pressing them to death and running our fast break offense. When I was assistant, head coach called a timeout and made adjustments, backed them off. The opposite coach he got so irate he got a technical, and we couldn't understand. We thought the idea was not to embarrass your kids, break their hearts, you know, just push them in the ground. We've already established we winning the game, and we've established our dominance. So now we're going, you know, this guy, we couldn't understand what's wrong with him. So he gave him a tech, and he walked over and said, Coach, he said, I'm real upset because you're pulling your dogs off. He said, I don't care who you put in the game. Don't stop. My kids can't learn. If you stop playing the way you playing, how can I teach them?
Right.
We never looked at it. We were thinking we don't want to demoralize this kid. No. I mean that was not our intent. And then the time when it happened when I was a coach, and very fortunate to be up by a lot, and I was about to pull him off. Mm-hmm. You know, and I looked down the bench, and he had that look on his face like, "Don't you do that?" You know. And I looked at him, and I kind of like, and he said, "I said okay." So in the back of my head, I said, okay, so what I did, I put a fresh set of legs out there.
Right.
We kept Now, what we did do, which I thought was the human thing, is that we spent that rest of that game kind of working on some other stuff, but still doing it at that same pace.
Right.
You know, defensively, we were trying to get stops. We were trying to get stops. If we were pressing, we were pressing. If not, we wanted to bring them down the half court game, and we were going to attack them in the half court game. Working on those things for offensively, the same thing, same piece now. And I told them, you get a free layup, you better take it.
Right.
If you get a fast break, I don't care if this kid can't get the ball overhead. That coach is saying that's not his problem.
Right.
And it's not mine.
Right. Exactly.
So afterwards, I kind of went over after the game, went over to him hoping I had done the right thing.
Right.
And I wasn't sure. And then after he shook my hand, he said, "Thank you, Coach." He said, "That's what I needed. I need my kids to understand when you don't come to play.
There you go.
This is what happened to you."
Exactly.
Now, again, I was shocked because the look on his face did not indicate that's how he felt. I just assumed I had read him correctly. I have been in that position. Mm-hmm. I've been down by a lot.
Right.
We're not coming back from this.
Right.
And I know as a coach, I'm still coaching my kids to play hard, to still execute,
right,
not let up because we can't win, because I'm preparing for the next game.
Right.
That helped me better understand what this guy was really talking about.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm saying it. Yes. Now, the persons in the stands sometimes don't get that. Mm-hmm. You're beating them up. Why don't you just let them go? Well, to your point, life won't let them go like that. Life won't back off.
Right.
Then you start hearing the other. Well, it's just a game. See, now wait a minute. Now, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
You can't have it both ways now. So I think my opinion has always been, I'm gonna play to get the advantage. Then I'm gonna use the advantage. Now I may stop pressing you full court, but I'm gonna trap you half court. Mm-hmm. You okay? But I haven't backed off. I just changed my tactics.
Right.
I think that's helped. When the guys were beating me like that, I almost called and said, "Coach, can you full press us?" You know, because they need to see this real time.
Right. Exactly.
Because it reaffirms what I'm saying in practice. So, to your point, it's so confusing, and when you hear fans talk about it, as opposed to when you hear coaches talking about it. Clearly, there have been times, and I witnessed this too. Now, this was a challenge. Got a team that, in all honesty, should not have been on the floor with us. Mm-hmm. No, this was not. It's like we're in Division I and you're Division II or III, mm-hmm, and you're playing us, and we're having a good season. You shouldn't be here.
Right.
So what do you do? Well, I feel like we still have to establish our dominance. We have to go out and make you understand. This is why I'm number one. Mm-hmm. Okay, or this is why I'm Division I, and this is and just so you understand the difference between Division I and Division II.
Right.
So I think you have to do that. Now, Charles, I gotta say this too. While we're talking about this, my heart is becoming harder and harder. I used to be really soft about it. I'm not that way anymore because I'm looking at. I hope I'm looking at the other side of prepare. Even my kids, I got to teach them how to win. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times you get up by 15, and you sub and you're down by 5. Right. that means the guys coming in didn't do their job. So the dynamic there is so different from spectating and coaching, mm-hmm. and then being a parent. You know, I don't want I went to some City League basketball last night.
Oh, did you?
and down in St. Cloud, and I watched the team I looked at the score, it was 30-63. and the team of the three was just as excited as if they were. And I said, okay, now this is what this is supposed to be. Nobody was mad. Mm-hmm. These kids were clearly outclassed. Mm-hmm. Where it was a playoff game, so you had one against top against the bottom. Right. And it was obvious how different it was. I mean, 100%. But even the kids that were winning, they stayed upbeat. They knocked one of these kids down. They picked them up. Mm-hmm. And I said, now, okay, somebody's done a good job of explaining how this thing's supposed to be. Exactly. This kid on the other side, getting his brains beat in. They still and I think they ended up winning 40-something to 10 or whatever. Whenever they scored the basket, the whole gym erupted. You know, and I'm saying, I used to think that was so silly. You still down by 50 points. Right. But I understand now. Right. Okay, listen, we're applauding an accomplishment. Right. We're not gonna win. Right. But so it's just like when you do camp. Mm-hmm. And I've told you this 1,000 times. I had a young lady come to camp, couldn't even get the ball. Getting the ball in the rim was completely out. That was just not gonna happen. Right. I don't care how far down you put it. It just wasn't going to happen. And she didn't want to be there. I could tell that. And then obviously she felt inferior because everybody else was shooting the ball reasonably well. But we kept talking to her. We kept talking to her. And the whole gym, by that time, the whole camp got involved. Mm-hmm. On Friday, she hit the bottom of the net, and you would have thought she hit the winning. The whole gym erupted. And it surprised me because I didn't think anybody else cared. Right. To be honest with you, I mean, we were down. They could hear us down there, right, cheering her on. Right. And then that day, and when she came up to shoot, the whole gym stopped. I wasn't paying attention at the time because I was that was my station, if you will. And so I'm just encouraging her. I'm thinking, if you can just hit the bottom of the net, I would be so happy. Right. For her. Right. I didn't realize the whole gym had stopped to watch her shoot. Uh-huh. And she hit that thing, and I turned around because I wasn't sure what is everybody applauding about. They were all, and they ran down there and picked her up, made her day. Her mom came to us after in tears. That girl was so excited. You thought she won the NBA championship, WNBA championship. One shot at the bottom, didn't hit the rim, but hit the net. But that's the essence of the game, is what I'm saying. But
I was going to say the essence of sports,
that is
and the impact.
Yeah, absolutely. You can never undervalue the impact of sport.
But we mess it up.
I think we
But see, that's what I mean by understanding what it has done and the difference it has made in so many lives. How it has touched so many lives. And I don't know if you saw this a couple of years ago. They actually did an interview with him, but it was the little kid. I think he had autism or something like that.
From a high school?
Right.
He was a manager and they put him in the game?
Right.
And he made
everything that he...
Yeah, he shot. They were all 3-pointers.
Right. And he went, I was hotter than a firecracker. He will remember that moment for the rest of...
He's a coach.
He's
a coach. He went on to school.
Right.
That was high school. He went to college. Manager, right, on the college team, and later, if I'm not mistaken, now he should be about out of college or about to come out of college. Mm-hmm. He was coaching socially, like around the community because of the impact. You see, now that's the other side of what you were talking about earlier. Is a lot of time we follow the success of the players that we know have been successful. That is, they go on to win championships, they start businesses or whatever. But what about that kid that was on the end of the bench that made the squad, that was there every day and contributed? We need to follow some of them, the impact that this game has had on them. Team, sport.
But this is how we're messed up. Because based on the conversation that Shaq might have with Charles Barkley, there have been plenty great players who have played, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, or hockey. Some of them might not even have made the playoffs.
True. Still good players, though.
Great players, yes. Great players.
Yeah.
And so this is my spiel. This is just how I am. I would rather have a champion of life than a champion of any sports. In a sense, and this is what I mean. Here's a player who was never in the news. He invested his money. He spent time with his family and his kids. He's successful in the sense of life and his purpose, but he never won a championship. But he's a champion in life. We will emphasize the champion in the NBA who been busted for crack, who done beat on his wife. He may have even been accused of some things, rape or whatever it is. And we will hug him more, and we will the guy that I just talked about, but because he has a ring, Vince.
But see, we aren't taught to value that yet. I mean, I think if you're around the game as a coach or even if you've actually played the game, you understand the importance of the guy on the other end of the bench, whatever that sport may be, who comes to practice, who actually makes your star player better, because he's at practice every day. He practices hard. He gives that other guy a real life experience. So when a team wins, guess what? Everybody gets a ring because everybody contributed. Now, me, the fan, only remember your starting group is having an impact.
Right.
Okay, so I agree with you on the value system. This conversation between Tracy McGrady and that he had about Hall of Fame and NBA championship. I'm not. They're both valuable. They're both contributions to your sport. I don't know if one's any more valuable than the other. Which is more valuable?
But,
I mean, I don't know.
But see, like, for an example, I think a lot of that always defer back to our own dysfunction and our value system. But I would love to have a round table discussion with somebody that you can invite just about who's in the Hall of Fame. No. Who's in the Hall of Fame and why the heck are they there?
Well, there are some people. There's some questions.
Right. Like, for an example, it's not that I'm not a fan, but when I hear his name, I'm still trying to figure out, like, why is he in the Hall of Fame? Chris Mullin. How did I have nothing against Chris Mullin. I like Chris Mullin. But when I think of Chris Mullin, I'm trying to think, well, what did Chris Mullin do that he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame?
But see that's the other point that I think we're both making it a different way. Did he contribute to the game of basketball?
But see, now
but when you look at it from
I mean, I think of St. John's. I think of the Big East.
Okay.
You know, because he was magnificent there.
Right.
You know, when he was at St. And I like Chris Mullin. I have nothing against him. But when I think of a basketball player, Hall of Fame, Chris.
Well, see, I think
I was like, what?
That's my issue with this. Again, going back to, did you win any championships? And maybe he did and maybe he didn't. Doesn't mean he wasn't a real good player, a great player.
Right.
I can't defend that, but I can say this is one of the criteria. You're looking at his percentages. You're looking at the fact how consistent was he at what he was doing, how his free throw shooting, his field goal percentage, and all this kind of stuff. So was that a significant enough reason that he had an impact on the game? Someone thinks it was. Is it any more important than if he had won? Obviously, they feel the impact was just as great or greater enough that he should be recognized as one of the top 50 players. He's in the first 50 group. Am I right? Yeah, he's in the first 50 group. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily understand that either, because there are a couple of guys in there that I'm saying, like, okay, if that's, football has a few guys. I'm like, I don't.
No, right. Well, I was just using him as an example.
But I'm just saying, even football, right? Any of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I would love to have a round table. I would love to have a round table with whom you would want to bring to have a discussion about. Not that it would change anything.
No, but it may help to educate, because I'd like to get someone who could talk to I think I understand the mindset, because I'm not a decision maker, obviously, but I think I understand what they're looking at. The word wholesome, you don't hear that used very much.
Right.
Because when we take wholesome and we look at athletes, we don't think that athletes and wholesome go together anymore. Well, some of their contracts, they have a clause in their contract. They have a moral clause in their contracts about how you act on and off your sport, whether it's a football field, basketball court, baseball diamond. We don't hear too much about that. Some of those things, the way they carry themselves, is just as important. Is his free throw percentage, because he's respecting that team.
Right.
Now, the exception. They accuse Mike of being a gambler, but nobody cares. I mean, first of all, Mike wasn't financially strapped if he did, because his dad said, well, if he wanted to throw away $10,000 a day or a weekend, he said, let me be honest, he can afford it.
Well, but why should we care?
Yeah, we shouldn't care. That's Mike's decision.
Right. Exactly.
If he can feed his family,
right.
Or Joe Smo can feed his family based on I don't care. I mean, I'm happy for you.
But that goes back to our dysfunction. But yeah, I would love to have the round table to talk about both baseball, football, and basketball, and and for the
because I got some guys I question too.
Right. So because I like Chris Mullin and I like his game, but when I think of the player in the sense of a Hall of Famer, I'm going like, wow, Chris Mullin made Basketball Hall of Fame? Because it's not like if you go, well, if you're going to pick a team, well, Chris Mullin wouldn't even be in the top 25 that he's going to be on, because he's not going to come to mind.
No.
Seriously. I mean, he's not. Because I'm like, and I like him, and he was a good, player and stuff like that.
Well, let me put this on the table, because I know some of our audience may be thinking that. There's a young man right now in the NBA, going to be the longest tenured ball player. Never won a NBA championship. Never been MVP. That'll probably go into the Hall of Fame. Why? Why will he go? If that's so obviously that can't be the measuring stick. So, and I don't think the fact that he's been in the league 20 years is a measuring stick. It can't be. I mean, because you got guys that are right behind him at 19, 18 years that may or may not make 20. Okay. So you look at that on content, value, and then you got to look at the statistics, the consistency of how. So you can't take away one's statistical data based on his ability to win. Because he's not always a winning factor. If the team can't win, he can shoot 40 points a game and they still losing. He still shot 40 points. He still got a very high percentage. They just didn't win. So do you penalize or reward?
Well, I mean,
see, that's the question that people are challenging. And I'll be honest, we're talking about my son. Vince Carter is supposedly will be a candidate for a Hall of Fame.
Well, see,
from a dad's standpoint, I'm excited.
Right. But see, I even told you. I said,
yeah, you brought that up.
Right. I told you. I said Vince going into the Hall of Fame, and then that's exactly what you said. Like, right? That was about maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And then I said Vince going into the Hall of Fame. Now that I could see, but now
He hasn't won any championships.
But
when you look,
see, I don't look at. See,
Well,
I don't look
but
at.
the fan does.
Right.
See, when you look at statistically,
Right.
now I'm gonna be honest with you. When you said that 2 or 3 years ago, I went back and pulled up some statistics on this young man.
Mm-hmm.
Without being biased,
Mm-hmm.
because I had other people look at it as well to keep me. Because as a parent, I was excited as all get out there. Let's be honest. I was surprised, but I was very excited.
Uh-huh.
Looking at, and he has some statistics that most people don't know.
Right.
Because he's not that top player anymore.
Right.
He hasn't won a championship, so you tend not
And
to
then-
follow. But you look
right,
at statistics.
but they don't realize what he put up when he was in Canada.
Well, not only that.
Right.
I mean, you look at where he is right now, including last season. You would be surprised where he ranks in three-point shooting, free throw percentage, minutes on the floor, assists, and rebound. It's shocking. I mean, and we talking top 10 in some of those, top 5, top 3 in a couple of categories. I didn't believe that. And I'm looking at that going like, ooh, oh, okay. So he's more efficient at some things than I thought, because I celebrate the completion too.
Okay.
When I go to a game, I get upset when he don't make that shot or he missed that. But statistically,
you know what?
His percentage is extremely high.
You know what? Oh man, I got something for you. Yeah, I got something for you. All right. You're watching Youth Central Sports. I'm Charles Morse along with Vince Carter, and something just came to mind, and it actually going to blow him away. I'm going to see if he can make this happen. But I think it'll be a really good show, especially if you are a true sports fan and you understand what Youth Central Sport is about. So I'm going to throw this at him, and I'm going to give him a task, and he's going to have to make this happen.
Okay.
Okay, this is what I would like to do. I would like for you to see if you can get a hold of Oliver Lee. Okay?
I can
now,
do that.
I'm going to talk about Oliver Lee, the basketball player that I knew of. Okay? Now, I would like for Oliver to talk about himself for people who don't know who Oliver Lee is, because there's a lot of people don't know who Oliver Lee is.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know.
Oliver is about the same size, same height as Vince Jr., your son. Okay? And I would love for you to talk about, to compare them, not in the sense of like, well, if they had played one-on-one,
No.
but I'm talking about watching him play and then watching your son play.
And what people, and you might want to let everybody know who Oliver Lee is. My brother.
Right.
That's my younger brother.
Right.
Played at Marquette.
Right. But in the state of Florida,
Yes.
let me go back to full screen. Okay. Back when Oliver played, there were 2 players in the state of Florida. His name was Reggie Hammond.
I'm
Okay.
Titusville.
Reggie Hammond was one of the top recruits out of Florida. Because I can remember one of the guys on my basketball team said, well, you know, all they got to do is write Reggie Hammond, Titusville, and he'll get the letter. You didn't have to write an address, just write Reggie Hammond, Titusville, he would get the letter. And when I first knew of Oliver Lee was when I went to school in Daytona, and it was his senior year, and that whole D-Land team was probably one of the best teams in the state at that time. They had Gumby, they had Ali.
Ali.
Right, and they had a really good team. So I'm hearing about Oliver Lee, and Oliver was like 6'6", very good size, very athletic, could score, could handle the ball, one of the top players in the country.
Yeah.
And so we heard about the Kingdom of the Sun tournament in Ocala. And they said, man, Oliver is going up against Reggie Hammond tonight. We got to go see this. So I hopped in the back seat of a 2-seater. And I was in the back scrunched down like this, saying, you know, trying to fit in this car so we can go to the Kingdom of the Sun tournament in Ocala to see Titusville versus D-Land. and that's a tournament that's still going on. That's a very nice high school tournament. But I would love to hear Oliver and his journey, and would love to get some feedback on his perception of your son looking at himself.
I can make that happen.
Right, because
I can make that
that
happen.
would be a good show, Vince.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. The two of them were talking one time, and this was early on when I was starting to coach. And I thought I was coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having a conversation about basketball. And I sat there in total amazement, did not understand nothing they were talking about. I was like, okay, can y'all put that in layman's terms? Because I don't understand. Because they were talking about some of the mechanics of the game, some stuff I had not heard that before. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't relate to it. When they started drawing it up, I kind of understood. But just to listen to them and they understood one another.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were talking a language that they understood as players of a game that they loved, that I loved, but
mm-hmm.
didn't understand that level. Now I think today I can have that conversation.
But as and I probably should save it for the show, because I'll ask the question and you don't have to answer. I would rather for you to answer it on the show. When you play, when you're involved in sports, it doesn't matter what sport it is. If you go to any athlete that play professional and you ask the question, tell me what's one of the best ball players that you know of, mm-hmm. it's going to be somebody that's never been in the league. They're going to always mention somebody that you've never heard of. Mm. Somebody that was on that playground, somebody that they played with, somebody who may have been shot, killed, somebody who dropped out of high school, somebody who couldn't pull the grades, somebody who just didn't have that opportunity.
One heck of an athlete, just the opportunity didn't come.
Right.
I've seen it.
Right.
I can remember when I played, but I can tell you now, sitting here right now, I won't answer that, but I can tell you players I'm thinking about right now that would never make it because of grades or social issues, but probably better than some of them, obviously. And anybody knows this. They're better ball players than we see in the NFL, in Major League Baseball or basketball. Mm-hmm. Opportunity just didn't happen. That's what you tell kids about opportunity.
Right.
You know, they didn't have the right grades. They had some felonies in their background and stuff. Because there's a kid I coached a few years ago that went to jail that had, I thought, a great might not have been a superstar, but he would have made somebody's team. He's not going to do that now. He spent 10 years in jail. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that opportunity is gone. I'm curious to see. He just got out. I'm curious to see what's he going to do with his life. What did he learn? So the many stories. There was a documentary done on siblings behind bars that I met this guy out of New York, and they were doing this, and we had a chance to chit chat. And he was telling me, he said, "Coach, there's a guy in New York never coming out of prison." Coach, and I put. And when I say never, I'm talking about capital letters. Never coming out. Average 6 or 7 points a game. He said, I'm not talking about playing inmates. I'm talking about playing other semi-pro teams, college teams, high level. He getting 67. And I'm sitting there with my mouth open, that's impossible. He said, Coach, he took me to some film, and he showed me. And we're not talking about three-point shots and nothing. I'm talking about taking it to the rack.
Right.
You know, shooting threes, dunking, running the floor. He getting 67. He said, but he never come out. He said, you'll never hear of him. He said, and he's one of many. He said some tremendous athletes behind bars.
Oh, yeah.
But they never coming out.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Not to mention this guy's walking the street.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding talent. They lost their way. Or whatever's happened to him. So yeah, that greatest athlete, you're absolutely right. Because when I hear that,
right,
my mind goes back to a kid I knew on the playground.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Who was a bad dude.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I played football in college with a kid that should have been in the NFL, but the hardest thing, he was only playing ball because they made him play. I said, how they make you play? Well, his parents forced him to go to play football.
Right.
Free education. He was a reasonably good student. One heck of an athlete. Did not like it.
Right.
But played at a high level. Didn't like it. I said, if you had liked this game, my God, And he dropped. He ended up got off the football team. He made it through school because he was a reasonably intelligent kid. You know, a little above average. He was a good student.
Right.
He loved tennis. And I'm saying, football and tennis is far away from one another.
Right.
But that was his passion. His parents wouldn't let him play that.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I don't understand that, because in my household, my mom was a huge, like your mom. My mom was a huge sports fan.
Right.
I mean, and she didn't care what I played. She didn't care whether I started or not. But you go and practice every day.
Right.
You're gonna show up to the game, and if you get in, you're gonna play the best you can.
Right.
I thought about quitting. Oh my God. Oh God. You would have thought I stole something because she quit. Quit what? You talking about next year? Because I know you're not talking about this year.
Right.
That was unheard of.
Right. That's which is another.
I come up in that environment that you talked about.
Right.
I come up in that.
Right. Because like that's another example of what I would like to talk about as well.
Oh yeah.
Because I've been like when I talk about my brother. There's been circumstances and situations where he was talking about his daughters, and I look because there's been situations, and I'm thinking like, is it me? Am I just crazy? Because to me, I say, I know where you come from, and you're supposed to understand this, because I know where you come from.
Right.
So he's talking to me like a parent, not like somebody who didn't come from.
Yeah.
I'm hearing stuff that a parent would say in the stands, and I'm looking at him. Because now I don't understand, because like I'm telling him, like for example, well, he said something like, well, the girls are not going to play because the wife doesn't like the coach. And I looked at him. It's your job to help her understand.
Yeah.
This is sports.
Yeah.
Just because she don't like the female. Remember, the coach was a female.
Yeah, but yeah.
All right.
That got dynamics all by itself.
Right. So it's your job to help her understand what this is.
Yeah.
But you can't be sitting there going, well, you know, the girl's not going to play because she don't like it. And I'm looking at him, and he's saying something in reference to the coach. And I'm looking at him like, that's normal. You know,
It doesn't matter.
No. I meant the complaint that he was talking about in reference to the coach and the kids. And this is the other part. They had a game over in Tampa. And it came down that they needed a ride over there. And he got, well, they ain't going to play anyway. So, and I looked at him, wait a minute. Because you thinking that they supposed, that she go on the bench, that they shouldn't show up?
Yeah.
I know where you come from.
Yeah, that's a different mentality.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, that's a different mentality. But see, that's a true fan. That's where the passion for the game.
But no, Vince.
But you see what I'm saying? The passion for the game, as it relates to your kids being involved. Now, because I believe if you got a passion for the game, you're gonna push your kids.
Right.
And you're gonna support. Now, yeah, I want to see you play, but you playing or not playing has nothing to do with you being there with the team.
Right, because
the two aren't related.
You know, I'm thinking back when we first started, there were some players that, based on the way that game was, you know they wasn't going to get in the game.
They weren't going to play.
But they was just as enthused, just as happy, going and their parents knew that they weren't going to play in that game. Because we going to only win by maybe 8 or 10.
Now, this is a conversation that we need to have. And we have a panel of parents because they are as much a hindrance as they are a help to their young athletes. Mm-hmm. They can, and sometimes parents have perceptions of what their child should be. I've had conversations with another parent where my son in the backyard, I understand that, and I have great appreciation for the backyard, but it's not a backyard.
Right.
Okay. This is a little bit different because parents can, and when a parent acts like that, they foster that child's mindset. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't need to go because, like my daddy said, I ain't gonna pay no way, so I don't need to be there. Wherein I believe like my mother, and even Coach told me, you're not playing. Oh, I better be the first one there. to the field, to the gym, or wherever we playing, because she's not going. She only sees that you're a part of this team,
Right.
and that's something we preach today to young athletes. It's a team sport, and that not every game is going to suit every player. Let's be honest with this, especially if you're coaching at a high level.
Wow.
Based on we talked about adjustments. Football, sometimes based on what they got on the field. Baseball, for sure, in certain lineups, you got the same thing in basketball. But parents sometimes, and I've had some great experience with parents, but I've also had some nightmares with parents because they believe their child's a better athlete than he actually is, or he or she actually is.
Well, one of the things that I can say is that I think that we have a lot that we can talk about.
Oh, if the sun will come up and the sun will go down, there's a lot of things that happen out there we could talk. As it relates to sports, the dynamic of sports is so vast. And that's what I hope we get a chance to talk about. Not about what we all see on the field, on the court, on the baseball diamond. It's the essence of the sport, how it impacts and influences both players, parents, and coaches' lives. And how we see that played out on the perspective of the field, court, or diamond, but also how they live out their lives. One of the things, a perfect example is the military. I'm a product of the military. Going in, I hated the military, just what it stood for. But after going in now, the experiences that I had from the military have been invaluable to my life, going through my life. As I see the same thing in sport. The same thing in sport. The lessons you learn in sport are so crucial to life. About relationship building, working as a team, caring about somebody other than yourself, sacrificing for others. Yeah, that's what you learn in sport.
Right, exactly.
And I think those are crucial behaviors to help us become better human beings. Okay. And some of the people that we see today, if we look in their background, we're shocked to know that they were in sport.
Right.
And I'm saying that's why I'm saying the fact that they were in sport is why we see what we see in them.
Right.
So that's what we want to talk about. I mean, we want to talk about all those essences and behaviors and ties to the things that we love, and I love sport.
All right. Well, Youth Central Sports will be coming your way. You can follow me on Twitter. You on Twitter?
I am, but not. I'm changing that. I will update that so you can follow me on Twitter. I have a private Twitter account at this time. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to have a more open Twitter so we can discuss.
Right. So you can follow Vince on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. Youth Central Sports. We've been trying to put this thing together for a while. We had it back together a few years ago, yes, where we were on the radio. But we're getting ready to go to the World Wide Web and some. So we're going to be looking for some feedback, looking for some comments, looking for questions. And
topics they would like to hear us discuss.
Right. Topics, yeah, definitely. Youth Central Sports, you'll be able to catch it right here at youthcentralsports.com. Or you can always, again, follow us on Twitter. And you can email us. The email address is right here as well on comments, questions. And you can follow us on Periscope live, Facebook as well. You can you can follow us on Facebook. So more is to come. A lot of discussions. Youth Central Sports, we will be talking about the young and the old.
We have it represented, the young, the old.
I don't know. But I am looking forward to that show with Oliver.
I would definitely get on that.
Yeah, and I think that would be, and plus I would love to hear what he has to say about the game now.
He has some interesting comments. I can tell you that. I've had that discussion with him,
and
it was interesting. We actually started out in a conversation. I ended up just being quiet and listening to his perspective because he played a lot of overseas basketball. He's been playing ball a long time. Mm-hmm. Played at a very high level, and he's been all around the world bouncing that ball. So it was very interesting to hear his perspective on things, and you would find it most amusing of the things that irritate him. You would be very interesting.
Right. Well, we're actually about to take off, but I wanted to say I came upon Dr. J some videos on YouTube, And it's funny because when you hear professional athletes speak of the game of NBA and how if you really listen, because you try to be politically correct as he talking about how the game has changed, but he's saying it as it has evolved. But he's really saying, I don't know what that is that's out there now. And that's really what he's saying. But that's not the way he put it.
We're not talking about evolution. We're talking about a revolution.
Right. So but you can hear him talk about the game today and how it was, as he said, back when I played and what it is now and da-da-da-da. And what he's really saying, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
It's a different game now. There's no question about that. 100%. Right. I can tell you that just from coaching the game has changed. There was the strategy, the thought pattern, how you look at the game, what are your options. I was watching real quick the Big Three. Which is taking off, as a matter of fact. They got a 4-point shot.
Right.
And the NBA one time had thought about that, putting in a 4-point shot. I'm like, oh my God, please don't do that.
Right.
Leave, the three is enough.
Right.
So all kinds of ideas.
Gimmicks. It's gimmicks, man. Just
gimmicks.
Gimmicks.
I think that's what I would agree with. The word, great word.
Okay. All right. Well, hope that you're enjoying us. Youth Central Sports, you can join us right here. We will be a bi-weekly show coming to you twice a month at youthcentralsports.com. So you be blessed, and thank you for joining us. Mr. Vince, you got anything last?
Just look forward to hearing your comments. We'd love to discuss some of the things you find interesting, and we just appreciate you and look forward to having you join us.
All right. Youth Central Sports, you be blessed.